Hi, this is Sheila with Stamping Wishes and welcome to my studio. Today we're going to be doing a project. It's going to be one of the ones that I'm doing for our club meet. Even though we're doing virtual meetings, I'll be doing this video and then they'll pick up their packets to make the project. Well, I saw this project on Dawn's, I think it was on her blog, and she had gotten it from one of her downlines. Sharon was this cute little box here, a little container type deal that opens up and then there's candy inside of it. And this was the style that she had made, which I'll show you the stamp sets that she used for this. And then I went ahead and changed the size of it, and this is what I came up with. And I also added to mine up underneath where the coloring was, another layer so that it wouldn't show the bleed through on the color. And then of course, if I was doing this to send to somebody right now, I'd put them all the way across. The only reason I'm not right now is because I needed to save some of these for the ladies so that they'll have at least one to show through their projects when they get their cutout. So let's go ahead and get started on the stamps that we're using. Sad to say, but Over the Moon will be retiring. So if you haven't gotten this, it's super, super cute. And there's so many different things that you can make with it. And it's just precious and fun to color on top of it. To make the cowhides using Love What You Do stamp set, it's got two different sizes that are perfect for making your cowhide designs on your paper if that's what you want to use it for. All right, so we're going to start off with a thick piece of cardstock, 8.5 by 11. You want to get you some of the cowtails, and these, my first time for having this was actually at Retreat at Dawn's last August, and I love the caramel flavor. And you can get these on Amazon, and I will leave a link for them, and they're the mini version of them. I think they've got the longer ones as well, but really delicious. And then I used this particular of our stitched rectangular dies, this inside one, to make my window. Okay, so let's go ahead and move this off to the side and bring our cutter in. All right, so hopefully I'm getting this lined in. I think I mentioned it before, I'm still playing around with my camera and set up to get it just right, so just bear with me, please. I did at least get the problem fixed where it was turning off when it was recording on me and I wouldn't know it, and so that part did get fixed, and I just had to get a bigger Sims card. All right, so we want to come in here at 4 1/4 and go ahead and cut it. Now the original measurement that Dawn and her downline did was at 3, and then you want to cut it at 10.5. And the reason I went let's get it over here to 10.5. The reason I went to a little bit bigger is because I liked more of a card size, and plus I knew I could get 2 out of the one piece of cardstock. Now, you would want to use scrap for the next thing that I'm going to do, but for that front piece that I was talking about that we want to have layered over, we're going to go ahead and use this other piece, but I normally would have probably used a scrap, but they're not handy. And I'm going to come in here at 4 1/4 because that's our first score line, and we know that our width is also 4 1/4, and that will be the piece that we actually can color on. So we'll set this to a side, and we'll need to score it, yes. Okay, so let me get our scoring measurements over here and score this piece. We want to score it, make sure your cutting blade's out of the way. We're going to score it at 4 1/4. Then we're going to go to 4 3/4. We'll go to 9. And then 9.5. Okay, and this, let's go ahead and set this aside because I don't need it now. Now what you'll want to do, like you would do with your card or any kind of project you're doing with score lines in it is you want to make sure that they're burnished nicely so that they're nice and crisp. So let's go ahead and reinforce these. Okay. Okay, and at that, we'll set this aside for a second, but at this point, one of the things that you need to remember, I would go ahead normally and run this through, is you want to bring that piece when you die cut it as a little bit further up this direction, and the reason for it is you have this little flap that's going to come up underneath here, and you don't want it to show through here. You could always trim this down if you needed to, but so that you're not having to do that, probably about right here would be a perfect area for the window to be. And then you would take and use this piece and slide it up underneath it and draw where you need to cut here, and then you'd cut this out separately, and then that one would layer over on top of this after you've colored and stamped this. Okay, so I wanted to show you that because we're not going to do that on the screen. So let's go ahead and do this. If you want to do the design similar to what I have here, you'll want to do some masking on it. And usually these type of stamp sets where you have different characters with them, and a lot of times you do some of that masking. I go ahead when I use the Post-its that are completely sticky on the back all the way through, and so that the whole thing will stick nicely. And if I've used these, I go ahead and keep them in my stamp case so that I can use it the next time. Okay, so let's just, for the sake of having a piece here so that I can just kind of show you how you would stamp it. Let's say that this, we had already ran this through. I would have a window that would be about here, okay? And so my window's there, and this way I don't stamp on top of where I don't want to go over the window. And then we'll just go ahead here and do one of our little cows. We'll set her or him, whichever the case is. We'll set it about here. And see, it's right up underneath the window, and it's got a good impression on it. And then let's go ahead and bring this one next and stamp it up. Hopefully this is, let's get this over to make sure I'm in screen for it. Okay, so you want to bring it in, and depending on where you want it to be, I want it to kind of not overlap the cow below, but be a little bit above, or in this case it came out pretty close to being the same, which is fine because the one that I want to show that's going to be in the distance will be the next one that I do. So I'm going to take my Post-it note that I've already stamped and cut out, and I'm going to line it up, and because I'm doing the top portion, that's the area that I need to make sure has a good coverage equally to the stamp itself, so that whenever I stamp over it, I won't be stamping on the portions that I shouldn't. Okay, so now we're going to stamp up the next one, and we assume this one's a girl because she's got udders, so we don't think that the male has any. So depending on where you want her at, she can kind of come off to the side over here or right on top, but you want her to look as though she is behind the other one. And because we do have a little greeting that's going to go on it right there, we do have to make sure that we don't go over too high, because then we won't be able to do that. So at this point you can see the horns and stuff went into some of the areas that would be, in this case I had colored it brown, so that would be one of its white areas, which works well because you could highlight a little bit of the outside or even on the edge of this with some of a light gray, and that will distinguish the two pieces there. But as you can see, it looks like this one's right in front of the other one and that one's at a little bit of a distance. So you can see how fun that is. And at that point I would go ahead and start color. Oh well, let's stamp this first because we didn't do that. So let's go ahead and stamp it, and I would want this one to come as close to, I'm going to bring it a little bit over this way so I can see it, but I want to bring it as close to the top of the hair, and I went right into the hair here, which is no problem, but it really makes it look like they're thinking through this, okay? Now when you cut that with your die cut, you're going to get these little pieces like this that you want to keep, because that's the part that you're going to use over here for your greeting. So let's go ahead and stamp up a greeting, and we'll go ahead and stamp it so we can prepare it for layering on the card in a little bit. And that way all of our stamping is done. And what I'll do is go over the color markers that I used, and then I'll also have them listed. Let's see if I can get this straight without having my head over it. If not, a little bit of crookedness just shows that it was homemade. No, I think that looks pretty good, so we did good. All right, so let's set these off to the side, and I'm going to bring in what I have done beforehand to save us some time here, and I'll go over the coloring with you. Here's the piece that I've gone ahead and colored. And as you can see, what I've used is the light soft suede for the background of the cow. Then I came in with a little bit of the dark soft suede, and these are using your blends, and blended in there. They're little, I don't know what you call that area, but their little face area here is done with the ivory. And then I used the light black for its nose area. And then I used the dark smoky gray for its hoofs. And the reason I did that on their hoofs is when you use the light black, it takes away their little hoof marks. And to me, that helps distinguish that their hoofs. They look more like it. So that's why I used the smoky dark gray on it. And then on this cow, again, I used the dark the dark light black, and left the cow itself white. Again, we used ivory on its face area. I used the light navy for the boots, and then I used what did I use on that one? The mango. Yes, Mango Melody. I used the light and the dark there. Now you'll see, I don't know if you can actually see it, and I'll bring it up a little bit to see if you can. I've got some real light gray going in around the petals, just again to emphasize it's a white flower. But I have to admit, I use a different blend for that one that is not a Stampin' Up one, and I just get the very lightest one I can to come in there. And our light smoky slate's a little bit darker than I like, and I haven't figured out how to get it lighter unless I put it on and then lift some of it back off, which I really don't care for that particular look to it. Okay, so the next cow is we did just the opposite than we did here. We used the light soft suede, but on the little cow patch markings there. And then we used the light cherry cobbler here and on its bell. So I think that pretty much covers the coloring. And as you can see, as I stamped this, I cut this out using that one. Okay, and then here I had gone ahead and done this ahead, and one of the reasons I did is I like to give my magnets a little bit of time to dry, because they take a little bit of time, and I didn't want to delay our video waiting for them to dry, or in some cases come back. So I've gone ahead and got that part done, because what I'll do is I'll find my magnets by laying this on top. I'm going to find them here, and I'm going to bring those in now and show you. And then we will adhere that to the inside. But because this is going to go over top, it helps to seal those down a little bit quicker than it would be if they weren't covered. Okay? So you just kind of drop it and it finds where it's supposed to be based on the polar of it, a negative or positive. And then what I'm going to do is to bring in my liquid glue. And I know where that should be, so I'm going to pull it off. Okay, put just a little bit of glue there, not too much, because it's going to splatter when I let this go the next time. And bring this up here. Whoops, there we go. And I want to make sure that I'm even here. And then we're going to do the same thing here. Now what you can do, and I'll have to see if I've got it handy, but you can use your tear and tape and do your edges if you want to help seal these in a little bit faster. But I think I'll just go ahead and use my liquid glue, and it will dry fast enough. Okay, so now that it's magnetized like that and it's there, I can take these and separate them out and then flatten this out, which is what I'm going to do so that I can get a flat surface here to lay this piece down with. So let's go ahead, see all the coloring. That's what we're going to be covering up by doing the 2 layers like this. And it also allows you, if you make a mistake on this one piece, maybe when you're stamping or when you're coloring and you don't like it, you don't have to replace the entire project. You can just cut you another little piece for the cover and do it over again. Okay, so we're going to line this up the best we can here. Try and get it as even as we can. And then I'm going to hold it for just a couple of minutes to make sure that it's sealing well before I let go of it and go on to the greeting. And if it shows over a little bit on one side like this one does, it's not enough to bother me, and it's not that it's, you know, under on this one. It's just the way the cutter, sometimes if I don't have it exactly lined up the same, it's going to be a little bit different. So I'm okay with that. I think it looks good. So I'm going to leave that here for a second to dry. Now we're going to take our little piece here and a scrap of black. Grab my black over here, and I'm going to go ahead and bring this on top of my black because I want a little bit of a border like I did on this here so that it pops off of the card. There we go. And then I'll get my scissors out, and here's my little ones, and I'm just going to come up here close, about I'd say a 1/16 of an inch, a little less than an 1/8. And then bring it on as straight as I can. And I've said before, I'm not the straightest cutter, but we're going to make it work. Okay, and then over this way. And see, I told you I wasn't a straight cutter. Cut almost too much off of here, but that's okay. It's still going to look nice. Okay. Alright, so here we are. We've got this piece here, and I want to use some dimensionals. We'll get our mini dimensionals out and pop this on. And what's nice about that, these are really fast to make, and you don't have to do them just with cows. Or, I mean, you could use a little miniature candies of all sorts, Tootsie Rolls for example, and so you could make a design of floral or any other character you might, or if you wanted to make it a get well, it would be a nice little get well token as well to send to somebody that hadn't been feeling well, and give them the candies. And as you see, it snaps right into place where it needs to be. Now for the candy portion of it, I'm just going to take it off of one of these other cards here. I would use my this is the repositional tape, and I would use a little bit of it there, just enough to kind of hold this in place for me. And you want it to be where the window's going to be, and then you would line, like I said, the other ones up. Okay, so here we're done. I mean, it was that easy, and here's the first one that we did, and here's the other one that is done a little bit smaller. Let me bring all 3 of them in. And it's a fun project. I hope you try it. And again, thanks to Don and Sharon for their, I believe it was Sharon that had given it to her as a gift, for your inspiration. I really appreciate it. And until next time, happy stamping and creating.